and why does good nutrition work? So let's take some complicated stuff and try to make it as simple as possible. If you can see this, I have a definition on here called homeostasis. Homeostasis basically states that it's the property of a system that regulates its internal metabolic environment and that works to maintain a stable or a constant condition of properties in terms of blood pressure, your pH, your heart rate, your body temperature, digestion, fluid flow, body fluid flow, all of those things that kind of happen all by themselves, that your body is constantly using up energy to regulate its system to keep it basically in balance, and that is what is called homeostasis. A whole other level of health is called dynamic homeostasis, where everything is just clicking all the time. Your workouts are incredible, your sleep's incredible, you have really good libido, you have good mental energy, you have good physical energy, you have a good memory, your cognitive function is usually way above average. That is pretty much dynamic homeostasis. Now, when you look at this stuff and how your body has to stay in homeostasis, it doesn't have to do with drugs or pharmaceuticals, it has to do with what you eat and what you drink and what you expose your body to every single day. If you want to get stronger and you want to get healthier, it is a cell-by-cell process. The body is roughly made up of 200 trillion cells that make up the physical you. Out of those 200 trillion cells, you have about 200 or a little more than 200 different types of cells. Skin cell, bone cells, periosteum, tendon, ligament, different organs, liver, gallbladder, heart, intestines, so on and so forth. All made up of different cells, they all have their own jobs to perform. So each individual cell has its own specific job, or its own specific jobs to perform, yet it is also involved in specific relationships or communication with most or all the other cells of the body. So you have 200 trillion cells in your body all communicating through your central nervous system, trying to create this kind of like harmonious orchestra where dynamic homeostasis is happening every nanosecond of every single day. So cell-to-cell communication deals with these specific frequencies and their corresponding receptor sites on cell membranes. Well, that's great. What does that mean? Well, when you look at nutrition and you look at your cells and you look at the different types of cells that we have, they all have their own unique characteristics, and one of those main characteristics is its vibrational frequency. If you've ever seen under a microscope or maybe a medical show on TV and they show live blood samples or live tissue samples under a microscope, and then you look at the cells, they're just moving around and they're vibrating and vacillating and doing their thing. That is the energy that is contained in the cell membrane and what is inside the cell, and is what on the is on the outside of the cell. Excuse me. So the environment that that cell is sitting in and floating in its fluids really is going to determine how that cell thrives or how that cell does not thrive. It all depends on frequency, it depends on nutrition, it depends on fluid balance. So basically, with cell-to-cell communication, this is going to deal with those frequencies, and it's going to deal with these receptor sites on the membranes of your cells. Now that we talked about cell receptor sites and every cell having its own frequency, this has to do with your genetics, because your genetics are what basically play out every single day. Hair color, skin tone, athletic capabilities, all kinds of different things that relate to our genetics. Now, what is epigenetics versus genetics? We're going to talk about these two definitions. First of all, genetics are like the keys on a piano keyboard. Okay? The keys never change, they always remain the same, or they always remain constant. So the black and white keys on a keyboard, if that is your genome or your specific unique genetic code, it always stays the same. The human genome is made up roughly of 24,000 plus of these genes, but your specific genome always stays the same. Now the way that your genetic code expresses itself is a whole other ballgame. Now, there can be things that are expressed and things that are suppressed, and that's what we're going to talk about for a second. So, when you look at your genetics, they always remain constant. The keys on the keyboard of your genetic code are always the same. The key is how do you play them? How do you play those keys? Epigenetics, epi meaning above, or just above your genetics, are basically the piano player or players, or really what are the nutrients that determine how your genetics actually play out and express or suppress themselves. Let me say that again. So epigenetics, which means above, are nutrients that influence your genome. If you have the correct nutrients, they will influence your genetic coding to express and suppress themselves the way it's supposed to, so you go into dynamic homeostasis. Example, vitamin D3. Over the last 10 or 15 years, it's been exhaustively researched, vitamin D3, especially in fat-soluble form. Vitamin D is completely interrelated or codependent to roughly 15% of our entire genetic output. So vitamin D3 is completely dependent on around 15% of our entire genetic output. Now this is huge because vitamin D3 is a photosynthetic or photosynthesis vitamin D from the sun. Our sun goes through this process of photosynthesis when we take in vitamin D, and it works with cholesterol, etc., etc. It's another video for another day. But what that determines is that we are photosynthetic beings. So the food that we need to take in has to come from that photosynthesis cycle, which we're going to get to in a minute, because they contain all the vibrational frequencies that every cell membrane needs. So if vitamin D3 is roughly interrelated to 15% of your genetic output, what other nutrients also work with vitamin D? Well, right off the bat, you're going to get calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. Another video for another day, but it all branches out like this continually, and it goes on and on and on in human metabolism. It's ridiculous. You study this stuff forever. But that is how this works. So your genetics are the same, but the nutrients, which is the piano player of how you pull the nutrients out of your genome, or how the nutrients pull the information out of your genome, is how your genetic coding is going to express itself. Now, how nutrition works continued. We talked about frequencies before, and we talked about cell membranes and receptor sites and all that. Well, frequency specific, this is going to deal with the fact that all nutrients that we take in are going to have their own frequency or frequencies. And the reason being is so that they can attach themselves to any certain type of a cell's receptor site or sites. So vitamin D3 has a vitamin D3 receptor site. Insulin has an insulin receptor site. Glucagon, leptin, testosterone, cortisone, growth hormone, estrogens, estradiols all have their own receptor sites because they have the right vibrational frequency that fits the vibrational frequency of the receptor site, which rise up out of your cell membranes to pull the nutrient into the cell. And we'll get to that in a minute, but it's a lock and key mechanism. So, the reason we like whole food-based eating and supplementation is so important because it's easier for your body to read, break down, assimilate, utilize, and absorb those nutrients because they contain the right frequencies. So let me repeat. When you have the correct frequencies, you have the correct nutrition. You have the correct information. Frequencies, nutrition, information, it's all the same thing. All three words are interchangeable. Then you can replace your nutritional deficiencies. Once you do that, then the gaps that could exist in your genome expression are then filled. And when the gaps in your gene expression are filled, then your body can express itself the way it was designed and created to do. That's the genetic power within. That's the point I'm going to try to make in this first video, so when we go to products, you're going to understand why we chose them. Cell membrane receptor sites. We talked about this on the last couple of slides. Receiving nutrients, eliminating waste, nutrient correct frequencies, your minerals, your vitamins, your enzymes, your amino acids, procarbon fat, all of those is what all this cell membrane has to deal with. Up here is the outside of the cell. Down here below is inside the cell. If you remember that cells have a double bilayer, and you jump in the way here, here's the kind of peeled away. Here's the one bilayer, another bilayer, so it's a two-wall cell membrane. Almost all cells are like that. And when you look at some of these channels, you have these protein or integral proteins, and they don't have pictures of receptor sites, but these little oligosaccharides or glycoproteins, they kind of look like them. So when you use them, it looks like kind of a Y shape. These are like receptor sites from outside where nutrients can come in and be absorbed into the cell. If it has the right frequency, it'll attach right, it'll be pulled in. Like insulin carrying the glucose molecule, it'll have the right receptor site, it'll pull it into the cell so the glucose can be used by the cell for whatever reason the cell needs it. So you have to understand that along this cell membrane is an incredible amount of negative and positive charges going on. And it's kind of repelling and attracting at nanosecond speeds all the time. That's why each cell is vibrating so much, because there's so much energy in it. It's vibrating at all these different frequencies, and things are coming in, and waste is going out, and nutrients are coming in. It's this very busy cell going on here, allowing things in and allowing things out. That's how nutrition works. We're basically like sponges. We're positive and negative charges of this electromagnetic field where everything runs through water, where things go into your cells and things go out. When we take in the wrong foods and create the wrong chemistry, this gets all messed up, and then that's how disease breeds, or lack of human performance. So nutritional frequency information, always the same thing like I said before. Nutrition, the frequencies of it contain information. All three can be used synonymously. So all this nutrition stuff is about having the correct nutritional or vibrational frequencies or information for every cell that your body all the way down to the genetic level. If you have the right frequencies and the right nutrition for every cell in your body, it can be carried all the way down to the genetic level. This is what epigenetics is. So if you have the right nutrients, what rises above your genome is the nutrients that play the keyboard of your genome and make it express itself or suppress itself. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. I know I'm pounding it into your head. So better nutrient absorption and elimination because of this. It enhances cell-to-cell communication because of this. Enhances hormonal and fluid balance because of this. Controls inflammation. That's a big one. We'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. Thus enhancing human performance on all levels. When you're controlling inflammation, enhancing hormonal and fluid balance, and you enhance cell-to-cell communication, which enhances all of that because your nutrients are absorbing better and you're eliminating better, that's because you're putting in the correct vibrational frequencies from your nutrition. This is why it works so well. So this is the reason why whole food supplements are so important, all the information we just went over. So to really feed your body correctly at the cellular level, you have to have whole food-based nutrition, correct information, and vibrational frequencies of all your foods and your supplements. So the two products that we want to carry are spirulina, which is a whole food or a cyanobacteria. It's the beginning of the food chain. It's unadulterated by anything. And omega-3 fatty acids from fish sources. These are two videos that we're going to go to next and explain this whole food supplementation a little more in detail and how you can enhance your performance by taking spirulina and omega-3 fatty acids. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. God bless you.